Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the webinar. I hope that everybody is able to hear me. I see somebody saying hi already, so that's a positive thing.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to attend. My name is Jennifer Smith. I'm the Talent Services Manager here at Voices.com, and the presentation today is called A Guide to Filling Out Your Profile. So we have a couple of Voices.com's top talent on our presentation today as guests, and we're so lucky to be able to learn from their experience and wisdom. So we have Jamie Hill here with us. Jamie Hill truly enjoys voiceover as a passion and full-time voiceover career. She is a people person and is confident and loves people coming to help her with her, or sorry about that. So she is a people person, and this confidence and love of people comes through in her voiceover work. Jamie brings hard work, dedication, and professionalism to everything she does. Jamie has always been told that she has a naturally excellent voice, which is why she is in such high demand. Several years ago, she started to look into using it professionally. Right away, she got very positive feedback, which further encouraged her. She's had the privilege of working high profile domestic and international clients including Toyota, Microsoft, Amazon, Garnier, AT&T, Nike, 3M, JetBlue, Airways, Honda, Burger King, Kellogg's, PetSmart, and many more. Jamie continues to train and attend various workshops and seminars, as well as consulting and coaching voice actors who are new to the business. She believes that ongoing professional development is the key to success. Jamie is also a AAA rated beach volleyball player and tournament director. She lives in Los Angeles and enjoys traveling, golf, snowboarding, and spoiling her dog Chip. So thanks for attending or being a guest on the webinar, Jamie. And we also have Deborah Sale Butler. Deborah is a 30-year voice actor and 15-year voiceover and speech coach based in Los Angeles. She has done work in nearly every area of voiceover for clients including Universal, Microsoft, GE, Lockheed Martin, Bandai, Wells Fargo, Sony, and Build-A-Bear. She's voiced dozens of games and animated series, including 32 episodes as the character Shoot on SD Gundam Force for the Cartoon Network. As a coach and voice demo producer, she has taught privately and in workshops in LA and San Francisco. As a voice and speech coach, she's worked for Second City Training Center in Chicago, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and Stellar Adler Academy in Hollywood. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today on the webinar. Definitely glad to have you both.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me.
So we'll go into the beginning of our presentation. First, we're going to start off by reviewing today's agenda. So we're going to go through a little bit about why you want to have your profile filled out well. So we're going to talk about our search directory and about voice match. We're going to talk about your account settings, filling out your bio, adding demos to your profile, effective profile building review, and then we'll go into some question and answers. So feel free to go ahead and ask questions along the way. I will leave some time at the end for questions, and I will answer all of your questions then. So first of all, we're going to talk about why you should fill out your profile. So there are a couple of reasons why you should fill out your profile. The first reason is because you want to come up in the voices.com search directory. So the voices.com search directory is really important because this is where someone will go when they're, just browsing through different demos, and this is where they're going to possibly send you a private invitation for a job. You'll also want to make sure that you've got everything filled out in your profile properly so that you'll come up in all of those different searches. Jamie, would you be able to comment on some of the things maybe briefly that you've done to your profile to come up in different searches?
Well, there's certain adjectives I think that are really important. Like for instance, on these you can see there's tags which are genuine, mature, sophisticated, middle-aged, young, authoritative, conversational, girl next door. I think putting as many tags that are appropriate to what you sound like or what you can do very well are really important, so then they're going to show up when you do the voice match.
Definitely, I agree. And you, Deborah?
Yeah, I found that when you're tagging things, as you start to work and you start to find your voice match score, sometimes I'll notice I don't have as high a score on something that I thought I have a lot on. So you go back and you want to find a way to write in your profile using as many adjectives to describe the same thing as you can. You want it to still look professional, but a lot of the jobs are really driven to you more by the search engine than by somebody individually going through your profile. So it has to be readable, but it also needs to drive lots of traffic to you. So, say you do, I do a lot of corporate narrations. You want to put words like business, industrial, training, what else have I seen it? Internal film, internal video, things like that, where you start to look at the descriptions in some of the jobs that come across and see, have I included that in my bio somewhere, so that if it pops up, those kinds of jobs, because sometimes industries will go through sort of a thing where there's a catchphrase. We call it this now. It used to be called industrial video. Now they call it a B2B or a business video. So you want to make sure you have those words. If that's something you do or want to do, you want to have as many descriptors for it as possible.
For sure. I definitely agree. So the other reason that we're going to fill out our profile is so that you're going to be able to see the jobs that are posted publicly on voices.com that match up to your profile and audition for those as well. So we have a system called Voice Match, and I should explain a little bit more about how it works because it's really important. It can be very helpful to you if used properly. So Voice Match is a recommendation engine, and it's used as an indicator to determine how qualified you are for a job. It's a score out of 100, and it puts a numerical value on how well matched you are to a job, and it helps take the guesswork out of how likely you might be considered for that job. The client's view, though, what's really important to know is that when they're looking at the job postings, the auditions, they're actually seeing them ranked from the highest voice match score to the lowest. And that's instead of seeing them in the order that they came in. So when you see that a lot of people have auditioned for a job already, but you have a high voice match score for it, you'll know that it's still going to be worth your time to audition because you're going to be bumped up to the top of their list. So Voice Match can be a very helpful tool. You can search the job list based on the voice match score. You can audition for ones that have the higher voice match scores. I would suggest that you stick to the ones that are about 90% or above. So let's go on to talk a little bit more about your account. So we'll go into some more information about your account settings. So first of all, we're going to fill out some contact information and you're going to upload a picture. So ladies, do you have any suggestions on what information should be included and about your headshot? Sorry, do you want to go ahead, Jamie?
I'll go ahead first. So it depends on what you want to put. You can either put just a straight picture of yourself. There's some people that, do other things besides voiceover. They do on-camera acting. So if you've got a professional headshot or even just something that's a high-quality picture of yourself, if you don't want to use something of yourself, then, use a logo or use whatever you're using for branding. If you have a website, most likely you've got some sort of thing where it's, your name voiceover or, I'm a female voiceover or something that's going to show a good representation of who you are. I think it's important. Some people don't like to use, the way they look because sometimes it can maybe lead you one way or the other. Some people, they want to just have, initials, so then they don't know if they're a guy or a girl until they send everything. It just really depends, but there should be something that reflects, I think, who you are. Like I chose to do just a half a shot with a with a microphone. I think it's fairly generic, but it gets the point across.
Yeah, it's a nice shot. I had
Thanks.
a professional headshot, and I used that uh, because I don't have a really decent pic of me with a mic. But one thing that I've seen on the site that you want to kind of avoid just you doing a selfie or kind of a low grade picture with a bunch of your room in the background. Because if you notice on Jamie's picture, it's just a nice plain red background. She's very much in focus. Um, if you don't have a professional headshot or a very nicely done picture, it may be better for you to create a logo or do something with even a word art thing, because it doesn't look as professional. It looks like, hey, this is me, and I just
Yeah.
took a picture of myself and stuck it up there. And the whole time you're building your profile, you want to project a professional image, even if you've never done anything before, because that makes the client relax and think, oh, I'm working with a professional here, versus,
Exactly.
oh, it's like somebody in their bedroom.
Right.
Whether it really is, because I really am, but
I'm in my car. Just kidding.
I definitely know what you mean, ladies. A couple of times I have to say I haven't giggled when I've seen somebody's picture that actually looks like they're, lying on their bed or something. And you think, I don't know if that's quite the professional image that you were going for, but I definitely agree. I think keeping your branding consistent across your voices.com profile to your own website and anything else that you're using is definitely a good idea. I'll just add in quickly about your personal information, just so that you know this information is actually only shared with the client after they've decided to hire you. So don't fret that your information is going to be available to just anybody. So next we're going to talk a little bit about filling out your bio. We're going to go through everything step by step. And first we'll talk about your address. So we recently added this feature. You'll see on the top of your bio that you're going to be able to give the city, state, and country for where you live. Sometimes this can be helpful for clients that are looking for local talent. So I'm just wondering, ladies, how many times with voices.com have you booked a job where you've actually been in a studio to do the work for the client and they've cared that you live in Los Angeles?
I mean, for me, I think it's probably like 80-20. There are a lot of the jobs these days, just because of the way technology has, kind of evolved. You can send everything through a really good home studio that everybody can create, with any kind of money, I guess you can budget into it. But since we are, in LA, and I'm particularly in Los Angeles, it's more accessible if they have access to you, because sometimes they want to do something like ISDN, or with the other clients who knows where they could be, and if they have that access, it's better. But for me, I mean, I do most of my work, at home, which is great.
Yeah, I'm in LA too, and I do most of my work here. I think I have 3 clients that I've gotten through Voices.com who are local and who want to work in a studio. One of whom, though, on a quick turnaround, wanted me to do something really fast in my studio. So once they're comfortable with you and they know what you do, um, sometimes they'll just say, "Oh, could you do a pickup at your place?" But the Build-A-Bear folks, I go work with them, and a couple of games that I've worked out of studio.
Oh, great. Well, that's good to know. I didn't realize that, that you may have gotten so many jobs that were actually in-person jobs from voices.com. Usually it's kind of the other way around, but then it's a little bit different for you ladies living in and so close to LA. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the highlights section. This is the first thing that comes up on your profile. You'll want to give a detailed biography of yourself and explain a little bit about what you've accomplished. This is where you want to catch the client's attention. You're going to describe your voice using keywords, adjectives, and descriptive words, and explain a little bit about the types of voiceover that you're interested in. I find that everybody seems to fill out this section of their profile a little bit differently. Would you guys like to explain a little bit about how you've done yours?
Sure. For me, on the highlights, because when you look at the actual profile page, this is the first thing that shows up, underneath on the verbiage area. So I like to just put everything right up front. I mean, I'm the person that's like, I'm an open book. So everything you're going to know from the get-go is going to be right in the beginning. So for me, it's like I've got over 100 5-star reviews. I can give you all the deliveries of whatever these are, and then it kind of bullet points all of the different things that I can deliver for you. And then from the other places, we can get into more detail. But from the beginning, it's like, that's the flash point. Here you go. This is what I can do for you.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I top-loaded a lot of information right there, and also because it's such a nice big old section, it's a good place to start sticking descriptives. Those comparative adjectives and things like that you can later bring up with tags. But if a tag doesn't exist that says that, this is the place to put that word so it rings a bell for the search engine. And also, I noticed something. You said what kinds of work you're interested in. I think it's really important for new talents not to say, I am interested in. It's more about what you can do. That's what the client is interested in hearing from you, what you can do. And you need to be really good at understanding that. It may take a while to really narrow it down, but if you say, I'm interested in, it kind of sounds like you haven't done it, or gosh golly gee, wouldn't that be neat? You need to say, my voice is well suited for. If you haven't done it yet, you can say, my is perfect for, not would be good for. Keep it in the present tense. It is perfect. It is well suited. It would be still kind of puts it like in the future, like I haven't done it yet. You want to keep things very present and avoid saying wish, want, like to, because that makes it look unprofessional. Like, I haven't done anything, but gosh golly gee, it'd be great if I could do a promo, because that doesn't ring well with a client that is looking for somebody who can just deliver.
Well, it's about smoke and mirrors too. You might not be able to be there just yet, but if you already know that you've practiced and you've been coached and you know how to deliver it, then just pretend that you can, and pretend you've already worked 100 jobs. Because if you know that you can do it, then say that you can do it. If you can't speak Spanish, don't put on there you can speak great Spanish. Yeah. It's the things that you're already good at, and make sure you put those up front.
Well, Jennifer knows I wrote that article for the blog, the Fake It Till You Make It, and it says a lot of this stuff where you want to avoid. You just want to make people think you're already there. And again, if you know you can deliver it, say it.
Exactly.
I definitely agree. I often send out that blog post that you wrote, Deborah. It makes so much sense, and personally, as a salesperson, I've been in sales all my life. I would never start a job and let somebody know that it's my first day. You have to exude some confidence. You have to let them know that you're going to be a good person to work with, and let them feel comfortable about working with you, especially if they're on a tight deadline. They don't want to be worried that something's not going to work out. So
exactly.
Yeah, totally agree. So next we're going to fill out our gender, the languages that we speak, and a little bit about our accents. So the gender is pretty self-explanatory. I would have to say I realize that many males and females are able to do voiceovers for the opposite gender. However, at this point with Voices.com, you're only able to select one gender. You'll choose a language, and actually you can choose up to 5 different languages. So choose the languages that you speak, but keep in mind that how we have things set up is that for the more popular languages like English, Spanish, and French, we have several different English categories. So we've got English with a North American accent, we have a plain English category, English with a British accent, Australian, and so on. Now, the reason that we do that is so that you'll be able to see job postings with all of those specific accents. And a lot of people always ask me, well, why do we have the plain English category? The reason that we have that is because sometimes clients don't have a preference on the accent. Sometimes they're truly looking for something that's fairly neutral and easy to understand, maybe across many European countries, for example. They also might be looking for something that we don't have a category for, like somebody to speak English with a Spanish accent. So sometimes it's a bit of a catch-all category. Either way, please make sure on your profile, if you're, a typical English-speaking talent that you have, both your native accent and that you have the plain English category. Same thing goes with Spanish and French. And then from there, you can go ahead and choose other ones. One thing that I'll mention is that the order that you put these languages in is very important. This is one of the things that contributes to your voice match score. So right now, actually, I copied this off of Jamie's profile. Jamie's going to get a high voice match score for jobs that are English with a North American accent, and then just a little bit lower for the plain English jobs. And if she were to add a third, fourth, and fifth language, the points would go down from there. And then we have accents. So accents, this is just a free form section that you're going to be able to explain what accents you have. I would suggest, like Jamie did here, to be as descriptive as possible, and keep in mind that the site is completely international. So just putting Southern on there is probably not descriptive enough. So what do you think?
Can I say something about that? Because I'm a dialect coach.
Yes, please.
And I've actually spoken to producers and directors who are who are mortified if this happens. If you do an accent, if you don't have a natural accent from a language that you speak otherwise, and you just do dialects, which is great. A lot of trained actors and even untrained actors have a great ear, and you can do dialects very well, an accent. But if you don't, if you kind of sort of have it, don't put it, because it's not, it won't show well for you. I mean, I get hired to be British by British people a lot, so I can put that. And even I avoid I don't usually submit myself for, say, businesses that are British. A lot of times I'm being hired to be British, to do games, to do character voices for something, but I've actually had people come to me with a business from England and ask me to be British. I've listened to some people's tapes or demos, and I've found that sometimes they think they do a British dialect, but they don't. So if you're not sure, kind of run it by a coach first before you put it on there, because you don't want to try to sell something that really isn't your strength.
Right, because you might end up doing something that's 2, 3, 4 minutes long, and you don't sound like you're from there. You don't sound like a native.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I mean, sometimes it can be more comical, but that's not usually the case. And if that is the case, they'll probably explain that in the job posting. So yeah, I definitely agree. Stick to what you can actually perform. So then we'll move on to talk about special skills. So this special skills section is allowing you to choose the different types of voiceover work that you're interested in. You can choose from multiple different categories. And I would just always suggest you go back, take a look at the full list, make sure that you have everything selected that you're interested in, because what happens is if you don't have something selected, you're not going to see those job postings that are posted publicly. So you will only see publicly posted jobs that are posted in the categories that you have selected. It's not saying that you have experience in these areas or anything like that. It's just saying, I want to see these jobs. Do you have any comments on that, ladies?
Well, again, it's the basic thing of sticking to what you're good at. If you know that, you're good at doing cartoons and voices and, manipulating your voice, then cartoons are a great thing to add on there. If you don't want to do an audiobook where you're going to be talking for 15 hours, I probably wouldn't suggest clicking on audiobooks. It's doing the things that you want to do and that you're also good at. Audiobooks are a long and expansive process. So if you don't want to be, tied down to something that's going to be probably, more than a day's worth of work, just keep that in mind too, like the length of certain projects. Like you're never going to have a, 10-minute TV commercial. They're all going to be 60 or 30 or 15, so there's certain timelines as far as what all these things can possibly have. So keep that in mind too.
That's
okay.
good.
Great. So then we'll go on to talk about experience. So, what you're going to do is you're going to choose an experience level, professional or beginner. So, just so that you know, this information is actually used for our internal purposes so that we can send you appropriate marketing materials. So, this one section here isn't going to actually show up on your profile. However, the next section is going to allow you to explain a little bit more about your experience. You can add your personal experience, professional, voiceover. Explain what types of voiceover work you've done, and then you're going to be able to select how many years of experience that you have. Do you have any comments on that, Deborah?
On this, I actually put my whole resume because I have one. In that way, when I'm answering a job, if I have a lot of experience, but it would just be kind of silly to put all of that in the response to the job, I can list a couple of things and say, please see my resume and my profile page. And that lets them see that, if I say I've done dozens of things, I really have, and they can check. You want to put things that you've really done. Again, inventing things, and don't. The other thing I'd caution against is putting down related things like, oh, I read to kids at Sunday school, or I announce the games, for my son's softball league. Unless there's a job that comes up that specifically, we need somebody who sounds like an announcer for a softball game, then you can say, hey, and I actually do that in your response, but I wouldn't put it on your profile page because it sounds, again, like you haven't really done anything and you're just reaching for stuff. It's better to just put a couple things that you have done, even something as general as, works in such and such city as a recording artist or as a voice actor, and if you want to put training or something there too, that's great, but I wouldn't fill it out with stuff that's not true. That's just my advice.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that it's, one of those things where you can kind of pull at some of your previous experience, like say if you have a medical background and you can read medical terminology, that would be great. But maybe the fact that you've been a plumber before is maybe not going to come up. Like if a plumbing company is wanting to hire you, that might be a little bit more random. So let's talk a little bit about credentials. So this one's pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is explain the education that you have, whether it's voiceover or otherwise. If you're a beginner, remember that your previous education could be related to a voiceover project subject, and then you're going to list your union affiliations. So then we're going to just talk a little bit about what you want to explain about your studio. So this is the section where you're going to explain what type of microphone you use, the type of computer and recording software you use. You're going to add information about any special recording equipment that you have. You're going to explain about file and delivery formats you have available to you, and then talk a little bit about how quickly you can record and deliver files for your project. Do you have some comments on that, Jamie? A little bit about what information is the best to provide?
I think you need to be as detailed as possible. I mean, you might end up working with clients that don't know anything about this stuff. So whatever you can put on there that's going to make all of your equipment as clear and concise to whoever it is that you're working with is going to be great. And I think the most important thing about this part would be turnaround time. For those people that don't do voiceover full-time, or that have other projects, or maybe they're on-camera actors, or maybe they're bartenders, or maybe they're nurses, or anything, you've got to be able to work with the time that you have. So if you can turn something around within a day, that's ideal. Most of these people, they want it within like a couple hours. And I know for some that do work, other jobs, it's not going to be doable. Or if you've got other responsibilities, you've got kids, you've got family, you've got other things happening. So really be honest with your turnaround time. I for instance had a job that was offered to me because the other person couldn't record it for 3 days, and they're like, "Can you do it?" And I'm like, "I'll do it for you right now." So you've got to really be flexible with what you can do. If you can't do it within 24 hours, then put within 48 to 72. Give yourself the proper time block that you can turn around those projects, because like I said, those clients, they wanted it yesterday.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that you definitely have to be honest and straightforward and give them as much detail as possible because sometimes the clients are going to be interested to know what microphone and computer software you're using, and that could, help make or break their decision. So let's talk a little bit about the service description. This is an area where you're going to want to explain your customer service philosophy. I suggest usually that you highlight what you can offer other than a dry read. So, some examples would be copy editing, copywriting, translation, or full production. Do you have any other suggestions, Deborah?
No, and on mine, because I actually I used to do full production and I got away from doing that. For a site like this, for the budgets listed often, I find that it's not really, it's for me, not worth my time to do a full production, although some people are really into that and maybe they're getting more for that. But I don't offer full production, but I will help people with translating copy or rewriting copy to make it a little more to better it, to make it a better copy. As I speak like this, I'm good at talking. I see a lot of clients that come on who, especially from India, who grow up speaking English, but it's a little different, and they're they're trying to be very, very formal with the way they write in English, and it doesn't, and other countries as well, I should say, and it doesn't work. I mean, it just doesn't work as copy. So oftentimes what I'll do is, even in the audition, I'll rewrite the copy for the audition and then say that I offer this and say how much more it would be for me to correct their copy, and then I put that in my service description so that people know that, if you're coming from another country and you need a little help polishing up your script, there's the word, then I can do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this is an opportunity for you to kind of upsell your services. Make sure that you can keep your client happy and, offer anything else that you can do related to their project. So then we have testimonials. So what you're going to do is enter references from previous clients. If you haven't booked a job through voices.com, it's a good opportunity for you to show that you're a good person to work with and that you've done some voiceover work before. Can you tell us a little bit about your testimonials, Jamie?
Sure. I think this is something that's going to be a good representative for who you are. If someone gave you 2 or 3 stars, I probably wouldn't copy that testimonial on here. But if you've got somebody, or even if you haven't worked with anybody, like for instance, if you're new, maybe get something that a coach has said. Maybe get something that one of those companies that you've gone and taken classes from. If you've been to Second City for improv, if you've gone to Kalmanson and Kalmanson for a voiceover class, get one of the teachers or get one of the casting directors, get them to give you some information about you that they think you're good at, and then copy and use that as a testimonial. Just like if you were writing a resume, this is something that has to be reflective positively for you. And if you've got somebody that you've worked with that you really made a mark on, have them write something nice about you or copy something from their email and ask them, can I use this as a testimonial? And 99.9% of the time they'll say yes, because they liked working with you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. That's good. All right. And then your client list. So this is a list of clients that you've worked with. Now, do you guys have any opinion on whether or not, there are certain clients maybe you shouldn't be listing in this list, or how you choose which ones are the best to put here?
Deborah, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of different things. I think in the client list, I tend to put the big nationally recognized brand names and companies that people would know. I mean, it's not really going to help to put, well, but if you haven't done anything yet, whatever you've done is fine, just put whatever clients. But as you work, you may find that, that was a thing that was actually for a website for, some Pepsi product. Well, put that in there. If you did a car commercial for like a Toyota company, you can write Butler Toyota, whatever. You're just showing that you have worked. It's nice. It's kind of like your resume, but to me the client list is different from the resume in that I'd pull out those that are more recognizable or have a little bigger impact. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so now we're going to talk briefly about demos. So I realize that we're probably running a little bit short on time, so we'll go through this a little bit quickly, but still make sure we get into some good information. So what we're going to do is talk about adding the demos to your profile and how that affects your searchability and your voice match score. So what you want to do is add all of the demos that you have available to you on your profile. You have 100 megabytes of space available to you for demos. So what you want to do is work towards uploading one demo under every category that you're interested in. So this is a page that you'll get to when you go to add your demo, and you'll explain a little bit more about what your demo is about. So you want to choose a descriptive title. You want to describe your demo and what your voice sounds like. In that description area there, that's actually searchable in terms of keyword searches, along with the demo title as well. And what you want to do is add things here like, if you can impersonate people, say your demo is all impressions, your Morgan Freeman, your Sam Elliott, and so on. Actually list those names in there, because that's going to allow your demo, this specific one, to come up in that person's search so that they can hear your impression. You would also want to list other descriptive words about what your sound or your voice sounds like, and then talk a little bit about the types of voiceover that you're performing in this demo. So is it a how-to video, an explainer video, a sizzle reel? Is it a sales presentation for a business? Is it internal corporate training? All of these different buzzwords that are used in the business. And then you're going to be able to add up to 10 different tag words. These tag words are important because they are searchable, but also because they specifically affect the voice match score. You'll see on the job postings, it's going to say, sounds like, attractive, and believable. If those tag words match up to the ones that you've selected on your demo, then you're going to get a higher voice match score. And actually, just to go back quickly to having a demo under every category that you're interested in, the category that you've selected that we've got down here is also going to affect your voice match score. So you want to try to have a demo under every category that you're interested in, or at least work towards that. That could be a long-term goal, because if you've got one demo under television, you're going to get the highest voice match score for jobs posted under television, and for everything else, it's going to be a little bit lower. Then you're going to choose the language, and you're going to choose a voice age. Now, this is going to affect the search rankings. When somebody is going through and choosing what type of voice they're looking for, this is what's going to determine the demo that's going to come up for them. So, Jamie, do you have any comments on filling this out?
No, just like you said, just be as descriptive as possible, so that whenever somebody does look up, all those different tag words, that you've got those listed down. You want to be as high as percentage as you can for that voice match, because that's really going to help you as far as what you're going to be doing for what's good for you.
Wonderful. And I should mention too there that there is a section for you to select a featured demo. So you're going to pick one of your demos to be sort of like your default demo. So choose the one that really kind of converts into the most amount of work for you. If you often get booked for commercials, then I would select your commercial demo.
Can I? I just wanted to say something really quick.
Ahead.
I get this question a lot from friends. You may, as you start your career, create a couple of really nicely produced demos with the sound effects and the music. When you're putting these demos up, they don't all have to be produced like that. If it's a really good, solid, dry read that's clean, it's, like what you would submit on an audition, not an audition, but, something in the style of that, then you can make shorter demos that aren't fully produced that show that without having to go into a studio and do the whole thing. And then later, if you want to add music, that's great. But you can get those up to show your style of reading that, so that they could hear you and you can show that you do it if you don't have it produced yet. That's all I'm going to say.
Of course, I definitely agree. And thank you for bringing that up. I find it's becoming more and more popular for people to have shorter, more targeted demos. It always used to be that you'd have a commercial and a narration demo, but now that's not good enough. You need to have, a demo specifically for your corporate business training, another one specifically maybe for like long form educational tutorials or for internet videos. It kind of needs to be broken up a little bit. And if you do have a longer demo produced by somebody, another thing you can do too is to edit it and break it up a little bit. So
Hmm.
thank you for pointing that out. So what we'll do now is just kind of go over some effective profile building tips and do a quick review. So what I would suggest is that you're going to strive for 100% profile completeness score. You'll see that there's a profile completeness score under the My Account section of your account. Think of your profile as an online resume. You're going to use descriptive words to explain your voice and use lots of keywords. You're going to upload a professional headshot for your profile, or like we had said earlier, a logo or some type of picture of a microphone, something that's related that matches your branding. Don't be shy about promoting yourself. You have to sell yourself when you're marketing yourself. You want to create a profile that catches the eye of potential clients and voice seekers. It's important for your profile to look like you have substance and experience, or at least, like Deborah likes to say, fake it till you make it, and then consistently update your profile as you grow. So there's been quite a few questions that have been asked, so we've got a little bit of time left to be able to go ahead and answer those. So one of the questions I have here from Mark is, what is the formula for the voice match score? So if you go to voices.com/voice match, you'll actually see a breakdown of how the voice match score is calculated. It's mainly based on the order that you put your languages in. It's also based on the categories that you put your demos under, the tag words that you've selected. Those are really the main things that you're going to be able to change about your profile to make a real difference. Another question that we have here is there a negative ramification to using a logo instead of a headshot? I have a professional image of each. Jamie, do you have any comments on that?
I mean, personally, I don't know. I mean, I've had both people say do one or do the other. Again, it gets back to that thing of, do you really want to show what you look like? There's some people that they don't want to show what they look like because they don't want that to impact, their chances or their non-chances of getting a job. Do you want to get, I think for voiceover, you're getting picked for what you can deliver, how professional you are, what your quality of sounds like, how fast you can turn it around. I mean, I don't think it necessarily means like, hey, I'm this handsome guy, or hey, I'm this pretty girl, pick me. If you want to do that, you can do on-camera stuff. So I think a lot of the people do tend to choose branding or a microphone, so then that kind of takes it out of the equation.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would have to say, though, that we have done some click tests, and it has shown that clients do click, or whoever's been on the website, I should say, do click more often on an actual photo. So that's kind of interesting to know.
Good to know. Get that picture taken, folks.
Get those pictures done then. Gussy up.
So I have a question here from Janice. She says, when listing your studio info, what's the difference between ISDN and Skype? Or are they the same? Would you be able to explain that, Deborah?
Yeah, ISDN is it's a dedicated line. You have to pay for it. It can be quite expensive, but it allows a producer to listen in to your audio equipment, basically, the easiest way to say it, so that they're listening to what's being produced just the same way you are. Say you're jacked in with your headphones, they're jacked in with theirs, so they're hearing the exact audio. When they're doing it via Skype, it's a little bit different. It's kind of like listening in on a phone call, except it's running through your computer. And it can work. It depends on how your rig is set up. I personally don't dig it because it kind of messes around with my rig is my computer, and for different reasons I don't love it. And then there's a phone patch, which is another thing. It's actually a separate box that you run through and then into your rig where they're listening in on the telephone. It's a little different than ISDN because they're actually, again, there's that separation of listening by phone. And the other thing you can do, it's not as professional, but I actually do it a lot, which is just put somebody on speakerphone if they really want to direct in or listen in. If they want ISDN very, very much, I work with an outside studio. But if you think you're going to do, if you're at that level where you're getting a lot of requests from people across the country who definitely want an ISDN line, it might be something to invest in. There's also Source Connect. Have you ever used that, Jamie?
Well, just Source Connect I have, but I wanted to touch one more thing on the ISDN. Really the main difference on ISDN is when you are recording, you're actually recording into that person's studio. So that's the one key thing for ISDN that's very important if you're not in an actual studio that you're using with another company. If you're using it from home, you're using your equipment, but they're recording it on the other end. Versus if you're just on a phone patch, they're just listening to you and they're saying, okay, I like this, I like that, but then you actually have to go back and edit everything and send it back. When you're on ISDN, they're on the other end recording and they're just directing you. So that's, and it is very expensive, like what Deborah was saying. You know, you've got to pay, you know, for the phone line, you got to pay for the code box, you got to pay for, you know, the monthly, you got to pay for the monthly phone itself. So it can be expensive, but there are other options, you know, like Source Connect, and I think there's another one. I forgot which one it is though.
Are you thinking of IPDTL?
Maybe that's the other one. Yeah.
It's a newer British company actually that has like an online version sort of ISDN similar to Source Connect. Yeah. All right. So we have another question here from Monica, and then another related one. So Monica says, in the bio, what if you are brand new and don't have any accomplishments? What would you list instead? And then John asked a similar question saying, as a newbie, isn't lack of experience in your profile going to be limiting? So I know you like to talk about, you know, faking it till you make it, Deborah. So do you have any tips?
Okay, well, if there's any way that you can email them that article, but basically what I said was, imagine, I'll use myself, say, Deborah's smooth voice works well for industrial narration and corporate videos. Her bright, cheery sound has been heard, is perfect for commercials, something like that. Like I said before, keeping it present. You can describe your voice and what it is good for without listing anything that you've actually done, and that way people will have a sense of what you can do without making it sound like you haven't done anything.
Right, and then maybe stick your coaching and your experience already right up there instead of putting it at the other part. You know, all those different boxes that you're filling out in the profile page, you know, they show up as one big block onto your on your actual page. So if you don't have a lot of stuff to put in your highlight section, then stick all of your stuff up there. So then right when they read it, they've got all your, you know, your P's and Q's right there.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So another question from Melvin. With special skills, does it matter whether they're in following order of importance? To answer your question, Melvin, you actually can't choose the order of those special skills. It's just put in there alphabetically. So when you're choosing those different fields, the only one that you're able to change the order of and that's going to make a difference for your voice match score is the languages. So a question from Sandra, she says, is it proper protocol to ask customers to use their feedback if they provided it to you in writing? How is it best to reference them? First name and company name, full name and company name, or company name only?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to keep that line of communication open. For certain jobs, you might have to sign an NDA, whether it's with the production company or it's with the actual company itself. So in that case, you may not be able to even say anything at all. So if you've already been, you know, corresponding with these people, then just talk to them and ask them and be like, hey, you know, I've really enjoyed working with you. Would you mind if I put your information on my website? Can I tag your YouTube video on my website? Can I can I use your feedback for this, or can I write this here about you? You know, it's always about cross promotion for them and for you, but sometimes you just might not have access to it legally.
In terms of just the feedback they've left you, I mean, I think I've just copied the feedback and listed the company and then the person, but an NDA, if you haven't worked, is a non-disclosure agreement. So if I do a game for Sony, or I do a big one for Lockheed Martin that makes defense industry stuff that's highly classified, you can't talk about that job. You can't list it on your resume. As far except that you worked for Lockheed Martin, you can't say, and I did the such and such and so and so, or I just did a voice for this and this game. If it's a game, oftentimes there's a release date, and you are not allowed to talk about that game in any forum until the game has been released. So, you know, if you signed an NDA, you can't even put it on your resume until then.
Right.
That's good to know. So another question that we have here from Janice: what if your clients are from like 20 years ago because you're making a comeback? How would you handle that?
Use it.
Yeah.
Use it. Why not?
Yeah,
nobody's going to know whether they're from 20 years ago. I mean, unless the place went out of business.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
you know, whatever experience you have. I mean, even like what Deborah's saying, you know, with the faking it until you make it. If you've already got clients, it doesn't matter from where they are. That means you've made an impact and you've been used. So use it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, and Diana has a question. Does having the stars next to the client list names help you rank higher in any way? So the stars that you're seeing would be the feedback rating. So that actually doesn't affect your ranking in any way. Sure, if you're new to voices.com and haven't booked a job before, they may judge you a little bit based on that, but it doesn't affect your ranking in any way. So then we have another question from Marie. Currently, there are only 2 choices for voice age in adult, middle-aged, and senior. Do you also have young adult? Why is there an adult category? Or why isn't there an adult category? So we do have young adult, we have middle-aged, and senior. That's, you know, just the terms that we chose to use on the website. I would have to say that sometimes those categories can kind of be up for interpretation. You know, one person may say middle-aged, you know, goes till 40, while another might say it goes till, you know, 60. Everybody's kind of got a different interpretation. But what I would say is to leave your profile open to as many of those categories as you feel suited for, so that you can at least look at the job posting, read a little bit more into it, and decide for yourself if it's something that's going to be good for you. The middle-aged category is definitely the most popular.
And don't forget senior if you have a senior voice. I've actually seen people on the forums, and you know, oh, would you listen to my demos? And I go to their page and they've listed middle age, and they definitely have a senior sound to their voice. Don't be afraid of that. You know, if you have a senior sound to your voice, put it. You know your voice. Get somebody to listen in and say, you know, what voice range do you think? And they may say, oh, you know, I can play anything from a young adult to a senior, very character senior, but to a senior by playing around with my voice, but I don't sound like a 20-something. You know, if it says, if something comes through for young adult and it says, must sound like, you know, Generation Y, like, no, that's not me. But if they just want somebody who sounds bright and refreshing and conversational, I've been booked for those, even though it said young adult when I'm 50, so it doesn't really matter. Spread yourself out, but be aware what you really sound like.
Mm-hmm. And to kind of follow up on that, Stephanie has a question saying, how do I know what my voice age is?
Well, that's something you gotta, you know, you can listen to your voice, and I think the best thing to do is compare yourself. Watch the TV commercials, watch the radio commercial, listen to the radio commercials, or just, you know, look on the voices.com people and start listening to who they are and what they sound like, and compare your voice to who those people are. And also, like you just said as well, you can have somebody else come in and critique you and say, you sound like this, you sound like that. When you talk this way, you sound like that. When you do this kind of job, you sound like that. I mean, you also have to, it's just like getting to know who you are as a person, is getting to know who you are as a voiceover person, and what you can deliver.
It's funny because they say, it is so subjective. I would just say put as many as you realistically can do, and just unless you can't do a senior voice, just put them in there because I had an audition come through where they were saying we want a young adult sound, and they said like Tina Fey. Now Tina Fey,
She
Tina
doesn't sound
Fey is
young.
well into her 40s, but she has sort of a hit vibe, so that's what they were going for. So I wouldn't, really read the descriptions of the auditions carefully to see what it is they're asking for, because they may put young adult and they really don't mean that. They're just looking for a vibe.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Well, I just have one last question that I think will be a good place for us to end on. Sandra has a question saying that I'm a successful voiceover artist on many other online marketplaces, and I haven't broken through yet on voices.com. Do you either of you have any suggestions for her to book her first job?
Well, I mean, I think it's a numbers game, so get in as many auditions as you can, but at the same time, audition for the stuff that you're good at. If you're really great at corporate narrations, then really focus on doing the corporate narrations. If you're really great at doing, generic commercial voiceovers for big companies, then just do those. But really try to get in there and get in there quick and just send out as many as possible. You might not get picked for the one today, but you might get picked for the one tomorrow. It's always subjective, and it's up to the client. And just because you're doing great doesn't necessarily mean the client's going to like you, and it's not personal. It's just you weren't a right fit for the job, but they'll keep you in mind for something else.
I think it goes back to the whole topic of this seminar. If you are driving a lot of leads by building your profile well, then, like she said, pick the ones that you're best suited for, but there's a way that you can do triage. If you're starting to get likes but no hires, look at what you're being liked for. Maybe it's not what you were expecting, and answer those first, because it is a numbers game, and even though the voice match score might bump you up, people pick a different number, but if it's over 100, it doesn't matter what your voice match score is. You may not get heard. So get into those auditions that you're the best for first, and it raises your chance of being heard.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult. I mean, these people are listening to, 10, 15 seconds of, possibly 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and I mean, I had a client say, I listened to over 30 people, and I'm like, 30? That's it? I've seen a couple hundred, responses before. So it's like 30, but I mean, there are some people, they want to get the first couple ones. If they like it, that's it. Boom, it's done. I mean, there's timelines, there's deadlines. If they think you're good enough, that's it. It's not personal, again, so if they like you, great. If they don't, then they're going to move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
well,
just
thank
really
you so
try to
much
stay
for
positive.
Thanks so much for explaining it. It's definitely good words of encouragement. So thank you so much to everybody for all of your questions today. I'm sorry that we weren't able to get to everybody's question, but please feel free to email me. I was the one that had sent you the link for the registration, but my email address is jennifer@voices.com, and I would be happy to answer your questions. So today we've talked about the search directory, we've talked about voice match, our account settings, filling out your bio, adding demos to your profile, and we did an effective profile building review and answered your questions. So this has been a great presentation. I really, really want to thank Jamie and Deborah for all of your wisdom and time that you've spent with us today. I know I've learned a couple of things myself, and I am looking forward to continuing to provide this information and advice to others and passing it along.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks so much for having us.
All right. Thanks for your time, everybody, today. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.